What's going on, everybody? This Afro think tank. I had a thought, and so I needed to get this thought out of my head while I'm thinking about it. From now on, right, when it comes to picking our political candidates, I think the first question we should ask, whether they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, no matter how much we seem to like them, no matter how cool they seem or whatever, I think the first question we need to ask is how much money are you taking from AIPAC and other Jewish lobbyists and corporations and organizations? That need to be the first question. We need to find out who these politicians are allied with. We need to find out before we jump on any politician's bandwagon, whether it's state or federal, whether it's for the House, Senate, whether it's for the presidency, whether it's for the governorship. We need to find out who their loyalties lie with. That should be number one, right? How much money are you taking from Jewish organizations? How much money are you taking from AIPAC? Have you taken a trip to Israel? We need to cover all that. All those need to be disqualifying questions. The only way we're going to get our country back and have democracy work the way it's supposed to work is if we dislodge Israel from our political process. You see, our politicians are afraid. They're afraid of Israel, and they're not afraid of their constituency, because Israel, in their political affiliates, their NGOs, they threaten our politicians by way of either you let me give you this money, and we take you on this indoctrination trip to Israel, which they do. If you look at the Republicans, they took this big old school trip to Israel where they're indoctrinated, where they're threatened, where they're spied upon, because Israel has spies in America. They're spying on us because for Israel to survive as a nation, they need America to protect it, period. Without America, Israel falls. So Israel does everything it can to control the political apparatus of America. And all the money Israel has is money that they've siphoned from the American people, the American taxpayer. So all these corporations, all these businesses, they get their money from American taxpayers via the government and all kinds of international programs that siphon off our money to Israel, creating these mega corporations based out of Israel that in turn around and extort our politicians for political control, both Democrats and Republicans equally, right? And so there's a trap to where all this money, and they're not the only money, there's other monies running around. There's other non-Jewish organizations that do this, right? There's other white European institutions that do this. But, and that's called lobbying. Lobbying should be illegal, because lobbying is bribery. Everything we accuse African countries of doing, right, with bribes and all that stuff, that is what America does legally. It's called lobbying. Bribing and lobbying are interchangeable words, right? It's just that you know how white people are. They make their stuff official. They put uniform badges and titles on their shit so it can look legit, while condemning everybody else for doing exactly the same thing, right? So we as the American people, right, whether you are a Democrat, Republican, Independent, to solve this problem, the only way us regular people can do it is if we filter out who we accept as political candidates. Because the thing is, we truly still do got the power, because we have the vote. That's the thing. It's just that we're being tricked into voting for people that's already been selected by these organizations. Like, for instance, Gavin Newsom is most definitely the front runner for the next presidential election. A white male, the safe choice, right, to restructure everything, because we can't trust white people to, obviously we can't trust white people, to do that, because they should have did that the last election. So for the greater good of humanity, it seems like Gavin Newsom is thrown out there as the guy. And hey, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the man is qualified. He's the governor of California, right? So I mean, that the governor of California is the one of the 8th biggest or top 10 biggest economies in the world. So you put up California versus every other country in the world, Gavin Newsom is basically like a president. He has the same duties as a president, as a governor. So we can't say he's not qualified, can't do the job, but he may not be the perfect, he may not really be the perfect candidate. Obviously, he's a white male, and America wanted to get back to their white male status quo. I don't, black people, we can be stubborn about it and say fuck it, which we might have to. We should ask Gavin Newsom, how much money are you taking from AIPAC? We should not allow Jewish organizations and their money to dictate our elections. So we should make it so that's a disqualifying question. If you take money from AIPAC, you're disqualified. When Obama was running, he used public money, meaning the money that we, the people, gave to him, right? And it has a limitation of how much you can give per month. That was a fair and honest campaign, right? We need that. If you can't convince the American people to support you and support you financially, you don't need to be the president, right? We don't need artificial candidates being propped up by organizations getting all the airtime, because that's where the money goes. The money goes to these news organizations, right, to pay for airtime, to run their campaigns, to run all their campaigns. But the thing is, we got this thing called the internet, which we the people can push videos all over the world for free. So if there's a candidate who's worth it, we can push. We have just as much power to push the agendas that we agree with on the internet without millions upon millions of dollars to push it on regular standard TV like these other corporations. We do have the power if we are strategic and disciplined with what we do, right? And we got to organize as people, even opposition. As opposition, as we all, because ultimately we all really want the same thing. But the people that disseminate information to us has separated us using word salad and tricks, right? Cultivated in think tanks by these organizations to separate us, to keep us weak, keep us politically illiterate, so that they can manipulate the system the way they want, right? So another question: do you support a two-state solution for Israel? The question should be yes. You shouldn't have no word salad. We should not accept word salad for obviously easy questions to ask. Like Pete Buttigieg, right? The gay politician who was touted as some new age politician who he owns the conservative. He's one of those ones, you got the politicians that own the libs. He owns the conservative. He always got some slick shit to say. But when asked, do you support a two-state solution, he want to give a bunch of fucking word salad. That lets me know that AIPAC or another adjacent Jewish organization has been giving him money, and because he's been given money, he's compromised. He can't answer a simple fucking question like, do the Palestinians, who are the indigenous inhabitants of that land, deserve to have representation in the state? Because the Israelis there are criminal illegal aliens from Eastern Europe who have set up camp illegally, sponsored by the British and American Empire, and they don't have the same historical rights to that land as the Palestinians. But we gotta question whether the Palestinians have a right to have a fucking state. How stupid is that? How stupid is that? We're going to continue to play pretend like these white Europeans come from this place because they want to believe in the pretend Bible, which they don't actually believe in, by the way. They don't believe in the pretend Bible that they pretend. They don't believe in the pretend Torah. They don't believe none of that pretend shit. Only when it comes to real estate. That's when they believe that there's these European white people are some historic to the land, yet they whitish with lily snow. I don't freaking think so. Because the true original inhabitants of that land were darker than me. They're black. The ones that's there now, right, the Palestinians are a result of mixture of all the various different empires, the Ottoman Empire and the Persian Empire and the Greek Empire and all the adjacent empires that moved into the area after Africans had left the area, right? Going down to the Fertile Crescent of Africa and leaving the desertification, because it's not really good fertile land. It's just a good geographical location, but it's not good fertile land at all. Nobody who would really choose to live there unless there was some sort of strategic reason for being there, which is to control a portion of the Mediterranean so you can have your goods and services go through the Mediterranean instead of going all the way around the massive continent of Africa, which on the map doesn't show how big it really is. But when you sail in a ship, you got goods and you got that diesel pumping. They know how big Africa is, and they ain't trying to do that because it costs millions upon millions of dollars. Right? So we need to ask simple questions to see if can you answer this simple question, right? Oh, we should ask, do African Americans deserve reparations, and will you do something for it? We need to have a question. We need yes or no answers, and we need to not accept word salad from these politicians. Do you advocate for it, and do you have any policies for universal health care? Because after this big ass fucking switch to this right-wing Christian conservative barbaric savage fucking 7th century ass government we got here, we deserve something. We deserve a massive swing to progressiveness. They owe us. Give us universal health care so these goddamn white people in the middle of America who are complaining about ain't getting shit can get something, so they can calm the hell down. If these white folks in the middle of America, right, who are losing their goddamn mind, blaming black and brown people for all their goddamn problems because they still listen to the old white man in suits, if they had universal health care to be able to take care of the things they need in their communities, they'd be a little calmer. They'd be a little calmer, right? We need to ask our president, hey, are you going to do something about affordable housing? And what are you actually going to do? Because we need real affordable housing. Because if we are forced, if the government, if the system that we live in says you need to sell your body to a corporation in order to live by law, meaning you need to work, because you know this right-wing Christian neo-Nazi administration has made being homeless illegal. Being homeless is illegal. You're a pariah of the community if you fall through the cracks and you're homeless, right? So if we are forced to work, if we are forced to buy car insurance through private organizations to give them profit, or else we go to jail, or else we fine. If we are forced to rent from these organizations that's buying up all the real estate and forcing people to rent at astronomical prices, if we are forced to do all these things, we are forced to work 40 hours a day for a corporation or the government in order for us to actually be alive on this planet legally, then they should be forced to take care of us to some extent. Rent should be capped at a certain price. They should be paying for our ability to live and eat. There's no way these corporations should be able to just raise the price of everything for their own pockets, but yet require us to pay for these things and require for us to be slaves, because that's what we are. We are the perfected capitalism that we see today. This modern version of capitalism is slavery. So we need a massive shift to progressive policies, the things that 80% of Americans want. Give us universal health care. Tell us, are you taking money for the Jews? Are you for America? Or are you running for the presidency of the United States of America, or are you running for the presidency of Israel? We need to have some true loyalty to the country, not to Israel, which is that Israel has not done anything for us. Israel creates enemies on the global stage for us. Israel has made America the pariah of the global world. Israel is going to make it so when Americans travel to other countries, they're looked at as pariahs because they supported a genocide and they supported a criminal, genocidal, failed state nation of Israel. That's what's going to happen. So we need to detach ourselves from a supposed ally that's not an ally. We shouldn't have any loyalty to Israel above any other ally. We should not. And truth be told, Israel is losing power. Because when Africa stands up, that's it. I'm just letting you know. So as in America, we need to switch our posture to be more friendly towards African countries, more fair towards Asian countries, right? Less favorable towards European countries because they no longer hold power, right? And we need to just be fair all around because we're moving into a multipolar world, meaning there are going to be multiple points of power, not just one central European point of power. Right? So we need to get into that reality. And that will be a much better world. It'll be a much better world when white people can't just do what they want to do. As plain and simple as it is. When white people can't just be barbaric savages and do what they want to do and justify it with some mystical words and mystical books that they done made up or perverted. When they can't do that no more, the world would be we will elevate. We will level up as a group of people. Right? As a planet. And we can get Star Trek. Right? Everybody want to get Star Trek. Everybody wants to get to Star Trek, right? But we can't get to Star Trek while we have this current analog administration, this current analog set of world leaders who are still living in the 7th fucking century, not sharing the abundant resources that Earth has to offer. So we as the voters need to become smart and start asking serious questions and demanding Yes or no questions. When you go to work, your boss asks you a question, you answer, right? Can you give your boss a word salad? What happens if you give your boss a word salad? Matter of fact, what if you go into the DMV or the Motor Vehicle Administration, you give them word salad when they ask you a poignant question? Huh? Shit ain't gonna get done, right? So why is it we as taxpayers who own the politicians, they work for us? We have to keep reminding ourselves that in a democracy, the politicians are our servants and they work for us. We appoint them as leaders for a limited amount of time to do a service for us. Therefore, when we ask them a question, they say, answer the goddamn question, yes or no. And we don't want to hear no word silent, or you're fired. And we got to have that posture as voters and not be lazy and get our asses up and vote and stop listening to ignoramuses telling you your vote don't matter. Your vote don't matter because you don't know how to use your vote. Your vote don't matter because the people in your area don't vote enough. If you don't run fast enough, you can't win the race. That's just what it is. You can't sit there and say running don't work while sitting on the couch. You're not running. So what do you want to do? You can't sit there and not participate in politics and then complain about politics. Your life is politics. Your life is political. The world has always been political. You can't not participate in the world and complain about how the world operates. You got to at least try to do something and do it the best of your ability with all the information necessary to make the best and most responsible choice. And that's what we have to do. We must elevate our political literacy and demand things from our politicians. We have examples around the world where this happens. So we have precedent. We can't say we don't have precedent. We gotta stop letting these old white men in suits tell you that you don't see what you don't see, that you can't hear what you can't hear. We gotta stop letting these rich white men in suits act like they run the world. Elon Musk doesn't run the world. He's just a guy that got a lot of money who buys companies that innovate. He don't innovate shit. He's a pipehead. And he shouldn't have unreasonable and unnecessary control over world events just because he has more money in his account than you. That's not how democracy works, right? He should be held accountable just like everybody else. And a politician should be held accountable just like the regular person. Like there's no reason why Donald Trump should have ever been the president of the United States. There's no reason why we should have a criminal administration right now destroying America and its institutions right now. But we allowed it to get this way because of ignorance, because of racism, because of political illiteracy. It's our fault. We enabled this situation. Well, white folks, not us. All right, mainly you white folks and you POCs that want to be more white than who you are. So anyway, all I'm saying is we need to hold our politicians, the people who work for us, accountable. And when you start asking serious questions that should have a yes or no answer, a common sense answer, a human answer, and don't accept no word salad from none of these politicians. It should be, and if they get money from these organizations, we need to know how much money they get from these organizations. We want to know what it is that you promised these organizations when you gave that money. We want to know how many times you take a trip to goddamn Israel and why you taking that trip to Israel. Do you take trips to any other country? Does any other country, does an American politician have to take a trip, pilgrimage, to any other country before they become the president of the United States? Does America have to go to any other country on the globe to pander and kiss the ass of their politicians to become the president or governor of, or mayor or politician of the United States? No. Wow, the politicians of Israel come on camera and talk shit openly about how they run America, how they control America, how they control the politics. They literally say it out their mouths because the politicians have gotten so weak and they're so compromised that the Israeli politicians can do what they want in that small ass little base they call Israel to this big, giant, supposedly powerful country of America. How embarrassing is that? Anyway, you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. This is Afro Think Tank. Learn some tea time. I'm out.